longtime presenter, contributor, and inspiring artist all around the world, is my good friend Marty Romances, creative director as well as co-founder of Territory Studio in San Francisco. You've seen this work all over the place, but I'll let him talk about it because he can do it a lot better than me. For all of you who don't know, we're giving away thousands of prizes at C4D Live, so make sure to register anytime this week before Thursday is your chance to win over $1,000 of prizes. So check it out, C4D Live, and I'll let Marty take it from here.
Thank you. Thanks, Matthias. And thanks everyone who is here and who is home watching this live. I think what Dave just announced, it's great, it's big, and Cinema 4D is always being for the people and like for artists that are starting at the same time that we use it in Hollywood films. And what I want to show today, and like I did in the Vancouver edition last year, is how very, very simple stuff, it can really help you create that accent on a graphic, or even for graphic designers. I'm not going to be touching on very, very complicated 3D scenes. For that, you'll have lots of other people doing it over these few days in here and also in the other booth. So yeah, my name is Marty Romances. We have offices in London, New York, San Francisco, and this year also we are opening in Vancouver, which is very exciting for us. It's a company, we started 9 years ago. A few of us in almost a basement, and to see this company growing, it's been incredible. And we grow up with the software as well. Our expertise and what we do, we're mostly known for is some of those films that you see here. We produce all sorts of graphics for them, not only on VFX, but also on-set graphics. And for that, we use Cinema 4D. We also do the same thing for video games. And before I get started, I wanted to play the reel so you can see what we do. Thank you, everyone. I have to say that we do create this. We do help directors tell their stories, and we do this through design. But to do that, we need technology, and it's thanks to people like Maxon and people who are developing the tools that allow us to do those things, where we can thrive on our passion, which is creating all this these sort of graphics. And here you will see games and films in this reel, but also we are very, very in touch with products, real experiences and prototypes. I'm even wearing today one watch that we designed, and for it we also use Cinema 4D and the cloners to all sorts of stuff that we do, and how important it is to be here, part of this family, which is Maxon. Talking about Maxon and the family, we also were very, very happy and honored to be with them collecting their technical award at the Oscars this last year. Thanks to them, the motion graphics community and MoGraph in general is having the attention that it deserves through also Motion Pictures and the Academy. So I want to start just looking at point clouds, and that's because it's something that it's very easy and everyone could do it at home. And it's something that we use a lot for some of those very technical ways to visualize different things. We even use it for the most grossing film of the whole history. So something very simple that everyone can do at home, even now more accessible with the new subscription system. It's something that's incredibly powerful that you can have these at home. For this film, we created some concepts for a character. The character that we were having on this karaoke bar that the directors approved was this one. And of course, we modeled it, and thanks to the team, they did an amazing job. We also were very, very happy to be able to use Alembic system, which is using so many different 3D softwares to help our pipelines with our Cinema 4D users and implementing otherwise. Lots of MoGraph when we were creating these platforms was used, that you can see here. And the final product is this. And the fun part about this is all of this work that we put into it was for a LED screen that was living on a set at the very end of this bar for Endgame. And you can barely see that, but that tells you how much attention Marvel and all of these productions put into these little things and these little details. This is a video where we were building the set in there, and you can see all our graphics around the little dancers that we created. And this is just to build that world with them. So even some of these other animations on the other screens were created with MoGraph. But what I want to focus on is this mask. I don't know if you realize that the concept has a floating LED mask in front of the two dancers in the back. And what we started doing is we started sharing with the directors and production designers and all of the playback team different options for this. And what I want to show you today is how to very, very easily achieve those point cloud passes with Cinema 4D. So we're going to be looking at these very quickly and show you a couple of different ways to do it. But also I want to show you, we use it in most of our animations and renders, whatever it is to highlight a point on this suit, or in this case also to highlight the shoulders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump right into it. Into Cinema. Before that, also, I want to show how does that look when we're applying it into our layer systems. Because we don't have the ability to have to render these things very quickly on set, we need to go there with all of these pre-rendered passes that would allow us to highlight different things into these animations. So let me just quickly show you how this actually looks when. So this right here is our point clouds. And what we're doing is we're using different masks to have these point clouds masked in the different areas that we want them to be affected. So now that we understand how we use these little things and how also we highlight all the things with masks and point clouds, let's jump into how we create these point clouds. And you can see here that, we are actually doing it in different ways. Let me just quickly render this. So we're going to start with looking at the geometry of this mask that we were looking at. Actually, the first geometry that we got is the one that wasn't subdivided. So let me show you how this first geometry was looking for. This is the subdivisions that we had. And what we're going to be doing now is showing the fastest way, in my opinion, to render a point cloud. The fastest way to render a point cloud for us, we discovered, is the hair system. And the hair system, of course, is made for hair, but we use it in a different way. If I apply a hair tag, a hair render into this, and I render it, you'll see that it's going to start creating all of these big hairs. That's not what we want. We actually want these hairs to be points. So what we're going to do is change the length from these 20 centimeters to even 0.1, and automatically you will see that what we're creating is very, very little hairs. These hairs are still not doing what we want, because what we want is a completely white point. So to do that, we're going to go to the shaders, create a hair material here, and inside of the hair material, what I want is white. So the only thing I want is just to have a white point. I'm creating a white hair material. I don't even care about the specular. This is a point cloud. And what I want to make sure is that the thickness is also very, very thin. So I'm going to also change this to 0.1, 0.1. Everything is at 0.1. And as soon as I drop this hair material into this geometry where we applied our tag, as soon as I render this, you'll see that it start doing something. We start generating points all over the place. We don't even need to see the face. So what I created is a black material that will go right before all of these text. Now when I render, I only see the points. It's still not doing what I want, and I think these points also look very, very big. So I can even like decrease the length here, or I could go into my hair material and even decrease the radius of this hair. So I could do that, and automatically, automatically you'll see how these points are starting to give us this little lighter effect. And you see how fast this is rendering. It's still something that I don't like because we're rendering this into the surface. If we change this to points now, you'll see how we're gonna quickly render a point cloud on each vertex. We can even like go smaller if we want. And the important part of this, how the render is super quick. I just press render, and if you have this in a massive Alembic file or a multi-million polygon big model, it will go that fast. And the good thing is like I can actually have more subdivisions now if I want. I can select all of these polygons and press US to subdivide it. All of a sudden, our point cloud is getting way more dense because we have more points to look at. So the same thing that I was looking at this other one, as soon as you start subdividing it, you start having all of that. This is as simple as that. The problem is that sometimes, depending on your geometry, depending on how close you are from it, you lose some points. And that's why I want to show you a completely different way to create a point cloud that will give us a bit more, a little bit more, it's going to be a modular system that we can, tweak a little bit more and have more variations in the points. And we're going to do this with our friends, the cloner effectors and all of that, and MoGraph effectors, by just creating a cloner. And instead of using hairs, in this case, we're going to clone very tiny spheres. Of course, this is a big spheres. I can just do a very tiny sphere at 0.01 centimeters. I drop this into the cloner. And now we are cloning these spheres here. They are so tiny that you cannot even see them. But what we want is to clone the spheres around this model, our geometry. Let me just delete all of that. Even delete this shader effector. This cloner is now cloning a line and linear. What we want is to clone an object, our object. So what I do change this to object, I have this fill here where I can drop my face geometry, and all of a sudden, you will see that these tiny points now are cloning at a surface. If I increase the count, you will see how these tiny points are starting to appear. We can barely see them, so I'm going to just make these spheres slightly bigger. You can see them now. What we're cloning is the surface, and that's not what we want. I mean, it could be what I want to, if I want to create that lighter effect. If I keep increasing this, we can start seeing how this looks like. But that's not what we want. We want to have these cloning it on the vertices. As soon as I change this distribution to vertices, now we start seeing those vertices rendered. Now I can go back to make this slightly smaller. And we're going to start seeing that when I render this, we have the similar effect that we were having before. Pretty fast render as well. Now this cloner now can be duplicated. We can change this from the second one. I don't want them in the vertices. I can have them on the edges. We can have here, let me just turn this on so we can see a little bit more what we're doing. We can see how these little spheres are now, ones are in these vertices, and other ones are in the edges. The ones in the edges, you will see that I can even offset them. So I can maybe create animation, or I can create different points that are not right in the middle of the edge. And the good thing is, like, I now have the opportunity to change this to maybe I want the vertices one to be slightly bigger, so I can do that. And I'm starting to now have 2 point clouds here. One that is the smaller one in the vertices, the other one is the bigger one in the edges. So this is not even finishing here. I can add another one to clone on the center of the polygons. And we can do that right now. By just duplicating this cloner, I can change the distribution, not vertex, not edge. Now we're going to the polygon center. And we can see now we're adding another extra step. And we can even say, you know what, this one I don't want to clone a sphere. I want to clone a cube. So instead of the sphere, let's get rid of the sphere. We can clone cubes. Let's make sure that those cubes are tiny cubes as well. I'm going to copy the same value. We're going to create a very, very tiny cube. And you can see now I have these cubes on in front of every single polygon, and the other ones on the vertices and the edges. That gives us also the opportunity to separate different things and highlight separate parts of this geometry. I could actually go to this geometry where we actually will see now how we now have these tiny ones in the middle of the polygon, the ones and the four edges, and the ones in the four vertices. I could even go here and say I want to select maybe a mask. Let's go to the ring selection. Let's say that we want to create a mask for this guy. We can just say, okay, we're going to create these ones, these points that I'm selecting. With the ring selection, I can even go to the fill selection, and with the shift, holding the shift, I can add this into the selection. And I can save this selection now. I can say, this selection, I want to set this selection tag. This selection tag will help us saying, well, these big spheres that I created in the vertices, let's make them bigger so we can obviously see them. These big spheres in these cloner that are, looking at the geometry, we have here a selection tag that I can drop the selection that I wanted to do here, drop it here, and automatically you will see how. Let me turn off the other ones. You will see how these tiny cubes. Actually, let me make this not in this one, but in the spheres and the edges, so we can see it quicker. I drop this selection tag here, and automatically we see how now we created the selection. And now I could be changing the texture in this. I could have this as different passes. Or if I want to add a different effector in here, maybe we want to have a random effector onto this one only, then I could create that too. So again, those little things help us a lot, creating all of these passes that we will be adding into parts of the film or parts of these animations that need to be, selected or highlighted in different ways, as you can see here. So I just wanted to put it out there. This is very, very simple stuff that everyone can do at home, and even this simple stuff that renders very, very fast, we use it as different passes for some of the graphics on these films. All right, so that was the first thing that I wanted to talk about. The second thing that I want to talk about today is how fills and the new volume system that came with R20, and of course with R21, get ready to see even a dial-up version of it, are very, very extremely useful for us. So as you can see in some of the stuff, for example, this is for Blade Runner. Some of these films require a very abstract visualization, whatever is for a planet, whatever is for something that comes from another galaxy. And in all of these, even for Ghost in the Shell, sadly we didn't have the fills and volumes. But now that we have them, we can very, very easily create all of these very organic visualizations. And I want to show, again, you how you can quickly create something that complex with a few steps and the volumes and the fills. Again, all of those are examples on how sometimes we need to create those more organic systems. To start with, I want to show a good example here. Let's load it. It's calculating the volume. A good example of one of these cellular systems or DNA strands could be something like this. And I want to show you how to create something very, very similar to this from scratch. And so we're going to create a new scene. We're going to create some geometry. Let's go with the torus. Torus cosine. And the torus, as you can see, we have some polygons, right? What we need to start creating in here, what I want to show you today is how we create a system that is completely parametric, that you can change everything, even after spending these 10 minutes that we're going to spend creating this, you're going to be able to modify it because we're going to do it in a modular parametric system and non-destructive, which is very, very important. For that, I want to play with instances. I don't want to play with torus. I want to make sure that once I create an instance, I can drop my torus here or whatever model we want to use. So we're not even going to use the geometry itself. We're going to create this with an instance of a geometry because maybe we want to change this geometry later. And I will show you that too. So to create these volumes, we want to go in here and get those two guys out, both the volume builder and the volume measure. Now, yes, I could drop the torus into these guys and see this affecting, but I don't want to. I want to show you how dropping the instance will affect. If I drop it into the builder, it's going to create those different voxels. If I drop it into the measure, nothing is going to happen. So remember, if you want to create the volume voxels, it's going to be with the builder. Now that I see this, I don't even need to care about seeing my torus, because what I want to look at is the volume that we're creating. These voxels right now, if you go to the builder, they're big voxels, and I can reduce these to 5, and we can start seeing how the definition gets better. Before we get into that, the definition, I want to show that we have two very important different volume types here. What we're looking here is the signed distance fill, which is almost going to affect as in a surface volume. But we don't want that. We want to change this to fog, and all of a sudden, this fog is going to show us all of these points that are almost like inside of this volume. With this also, if I change the voxel size back to 10, we'll see that we're losing a little bit of voxel quality in here. Let's go back to 5, and let's see how these voxels that I'm creating are going to be detected by the geometry. And the way to do that is the volume measure system here. As soon as I drop the volume builder into the measure, we can see here how now we have geometry. So we kind of see the torus back again. Now we have the geometry. And if I change that and I keep increasing the voxel size so we lose voxels, we will see how the measure will try to interpolate almost as a metable system, the medium points. Let's go back to 5. What I want to start doing to create this abstract visualization is creating something with a random noise. Also, if you want to see any of these measures and builders, Cineversity has an amazing amount of tutorials, and I recommend everyone going there to see more in-depth, volume learning techniques in here. What we wanted to create is in here in Create Fill, we wanted to create this random fill. This random fill, as we understand, if you remember the random effector from MoGraph, is going to create the noise. Actually, this is now a random that I can change the seed of, but I don't want this. I want to create a noise. And now we have a visualization on this box of how this noise is going to be affecting. I can scale it up. I can change the noise type. Let's change it to Voronoi, because let's say that we're going to find something very, very organic. So Voronoi is a good idea. Okay, we want to even see if we want to have this animated. We can change the animation speed here. If I click 10 and I press play, we will see how all of this noise is going to be animated. And I will show you that once it's applied to the geometry. Let's say that, yes, we could drop this random fill inside of the builder. But actually, this is not what we want. If I do it, we will see that we're going to start seeing something. And I'm going to jump into this. We don't want to see this box. We want to see this random noise into our torus. We don't want this here, because what we want to do is work in a parametric way. What we want to do instead is we want to create a fill group. And this fill group is what is going to go inside of the builder. We can see it here. Now, this fill group is empty. But now is when I want to drop my random fill inside. And we want to see this, right? But this is not what we want, because what we want is actually this fill, if I go back here, this fill to be affecting our torus, not a box. So in here, in creation space, we can see that there's this option. You can either have a box to visualize it, or you can click object, and all of a sudden, our noise is applied to our torus. So as simple as that, we can already see now, that animation that I was talking about. It's animated. If I scroll through the timeline, let's change it through 300, for example, and we can see more. So we have our noise. Now we can go to our random fill, look at this noise, and say, I want to scale it up a little bit more or less. Actually, we can hide this because what we want to see is how this is affecting our model. Now, what we want to do in this noise is select a part of it. So inside of this group fill and inside of the volume builder here, we will have, let's go inside of the group fill, we'll have something that everyone who's familiar with compositing softwares like Photoshop and all of these different combinations and compositing modes will be familiar with. And here, if I hold, I will see all my modifying layers. I could see something as simple as an invert, and if I drop it, it's gonna invert my volume effector. I could do something which what we're gonna do today, like curves. Curves are gonna give us a black and white value that is gonna that as I push it, I can select which value we wanna work with. Actually, I don't like working with these splines being Bezier mode, so I'm gonna change the spline preset to linear. And as I change that, and I move this here, I can select those 2 points that are selecting that part of the noise. And with shift, I can move this left and right. So even to introduce some 3D model, or so we could animate this by just doing some keyframes on this shape and animating this left and right to see how this comes to life. Even something as simple as that is so quick to create like a volume representation. But this is not what we want to do. If I hit Control and I click, I'm creating a new point. Now I can move this down, and we can see how this is now. Let me move to the right, to the left. Now this is creating something like what we will want. We're trying to create a cellular system, some blobs for Dr. Banner, let's say, is experimenting on something, or whatever it is, Men in Black. And I'm starting to get what I want. I'm gonna just add some size here. That looks cool. Yeah, that could be some cellular system here. But we're seeing something here. We're seeing lots of jagged edges here. I want to create a very, very smooth version of this. And a way to do that, it could be just to go to the volume builder and reduce the voxel size. Actually, I can reduce this to 2, and we will see it's almost like a subdivision. We are subdividing this. But it's not yet perfect. I see these jagged edges. I could see how this is not perfectly smooth. I can smooth that out. There's actually a smooth layer right here, and I could click, and this will be applied to this volume builder, and you will see how automatically this gets smooth. Now I could do that, but this is not what we want to do, because as I said before, we want to work in a parametric way, in a way that we can create a lot of different measures and builders, and instead of having to go inside of each measure and builder changing these parameters, I want all of these parameters out in a master effector group. So as you can see, this gray smooth layer, that's not what we want. I'm going to delete it. You can already see what's happening. It's definitely smoothing it out, but we don't want that. We want to go into our volume menu, and here we can see this smooth filter. That's the same. I have it outside now. So I can, like we did with the torus and the instance, or like we did with the random fill and the random group, I can call this smooth filter inside of my builder. I can drop it here. As you can see, it's now blue. And oh, wait, Marty, this is not working. I just dropped the smooth filter. You're wrong. No, because these smooth filters, like we did before, we said, remember when we said that there were 2 volume types. One is the sign distance fill, but this is not the one that we were using for this preset. The one that we're using is fog. So as soon as we change this, now is affecting. Now our smooth filter is affecting it. Now I can go into my filter and I can change that. I can even animate the strength if I want it. You can see how this is affecting. I could even just to go quicker, I'm gonna go back to the voxel size to be bigger. But then this is also affecting our smooth layer. So everything that I touch on the voxels and the voxel sides is going to be affecting this smooth layer, because this also has a voxel distance. If I increase this, I'm going to increasing my my strength as well. Let's say this way, of my smooth filter. It's almost like we have Gaussian. We also have mean. And we also have median. It's whatever feels good to you. I'm going to keep mean in here. I think like it's good enough. I can see this being a cellular system. And the crazy thing about this is like maybe you don't want to create a cellular system. Maybe you want to create just a design of one model. I could like actually get that shape and use it for my commercial or whatever it is. I can cache that. I can pull that out and get that geometry and do whatever I want with. The new volumes, it helps a lot on something that before we only had the Metable systems to do work with. So again, really, really powerful to create this. I guess for anyone who is into pharma visualizations, these will be like a lifesaver, I have to say. Now, you know, it will say, Marty, you've been talking about parametric ways and different ways to make this a system that is modular. And that's because this is not the only volume measure that I want. I want to create a few ones. So I'm going to rename this to volume measure 1. I'm going to put these guys also into a null. Alt G to create a null. I'm going to name these, let's call them master effectors. And we have them here, so we don't have to worry about them. Now, let's create another volume measure. Just by copy and paste, I have now a duplicate of that. And what I want to go is inside of my group field. And you remember that when we were creating these curves, we said that this is almost like a selection of that noise that we have affecting the whole volume. If I select this node here, and I move it to the left or the right, I'm going to have the same noise affecting a different part of it. So as soon as I move it out, you can see that I'm creating almost like another layer. There you go. It's the same noise affecting it, but it's a different layer. I have all the control on this. I can actually grab these curves and make them like slightly thinner, because maybe I want this layer here to not be that chunky. I just want almost like a layer that wraps around it. So again, like play with it, have a look at what is the visual that you're getting, and we're gonna start having, let's just start having some color here so we can easily differentiate those two systems. I'm gonna create 3 materials, double click, quick material. I'm gonna, let's say create one red one, why not? Let's create one blue one, why not? I'm from Barcelona, I'm always supporting my team. And we're create a Football Club Barcelona modular system here. One is blue, one is red. And we can see clearly here. This is our system. It took us, less than 5 minutes to create. If it wasn't because I like to talk a lot over it. And, we can render it here. Here you go. The important part is like that noise is still animated. It's the same noise that we had before. I can scrub through the timeline and I can see how this very, very like complex system is now being created. Now I say, yeah, Marty, but let's say that I want to see my torus back. I want maybe this to being a selection of that torus affected. Hey, it's okay. This is our volume measure number 2, remember? We want to create a third one. So copy and paste. I'm going to name these number 3. And guess what? We're going to do the same thing. We're going to go into our group film. We're going to go into our curve. And let me just actually drop this white material on this one. So we can differentiate it. And in our curves, if I select this and I move it to the right, we will see how that is sliding to even like another pass. I can even like start playing around with this a little bit more and say like, yeah, now I can see how this is almost like an infected system on this torus. Okay, that's fine. There we go. We still have our noise. Everything is working. Everything is parametric. Now we have these 3 volume measures. And the important part comes now. We've been doing everything in a parametric way. So if I want to now go to my random field where we choose that Voronoi noise. Let's say that I don't want this Voronoi anymore. I'm going to try a different one. So I just need to come here, change to a different noise, and all of a sudden, voila, the whole system changed. I don't have to go inside of each one to go change it and whatnot. I can now have all the control. I want this slightly bigger. I can scale this up, or I can scale this down to 200. I will have a very intricate level here. This could be another solution to give to the director 10 different types of this DNA system, right? Anyway, let's say that, I like the Voronoi one. I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to just go back to 800. Our animation, oh no, this animation was too quick. It's okay. I can change the animation speed from 10 to 5, and it will go slower. So all of this is very important because whatever we do with this system now is affecting the whole thing. The smooth layer as well is in the master's effector. If I say I want to change it to Gaussian, it's going to create a completely different thing. I can start now getting into very, very different ways and different designs. This could be something more for your graphic design, for your poster, something that you want to create. And this is still animated. Again, I can still scroll through and change the keyframe here and see how this is all animated. Anyway, so let's go back to where we were because Now that we are familiar with this cellular system, let's say that actually, Marty, we're not having to put this on a torus. We don't need to put it in a different thing. It's okay. That's why we created that, that's why everything is called into these master effectors. This torus is not what we want. Maybe we want this onto a cube. Okay, I can create a cube. I can drop it into this torus, can turn the torus off, and all of a sudden, oh wow, this is the exact same preset in a complete different module, in a complete different structure. I could even, if I want, create like a cloner of cubes. Here's my cloner of 3 cubes or 18 cubes, whatever I want to do. These are the guys. I can just like make them. Here we go. This is our cloner. I can change them. I can modify them however I want. And if I drop this here, it's not only going to be created for each cube, but it's going to interpolate the parts that are in between them. So you can see here how the same one is looking at it in the same way that I was looking at the torus. And as soon as I start making them slightly closer, let me change this amount of the Y separation to 150. It's creating it. It's calculating the volumes here. You can see in the bottom. You can see how now it's creating this thing. We could animate these. We could put whatever we want into this cloner. Now, this also works with very complex models. Let me just go quickly to maybe this one. We have this guy here, right? You remember this guy? Yeah. So we can drop this guy too. We can grab these. Let me just get rid of that hair render. We don't need it. I can grab this model. I can go back to my untitled file that I did not save, and I could lose all my work now. I will go back here. It's going to calculate all of this. Let me stop the cloner. Let me actually we don't need any of this cube or cloner anymore. And what we're going to do now is not our torus, remember. It's not our torus anymore. It's our good friend, Iron Man. Now, our good friend, Iron Man, let me make him a bit bigger. So we can see how all of oh my God, look at this. It looks like from Halo now. Wait a minute. I created Master Chief from Iron Man. Anyway, I know why that happened, but I'm not going to go into it. I'm going to drop this here. I'm going to kill my torus. And of course, this is a very intricate system now. We can see how, the only thing we're creating here is this. Actually, let me go into my master effector, turn the smooth filter off. So we're going to start seeing this. This could be like we did with the point cloud. We have rendered Iron Man. We put the point cloud in the, on the helmet or whatever selection we want. We might want to create this meshy filter around him. Maybe it's an infection or something. The good thing is like the animation that I had is still here. I can still scroll through it, and we will see how these points go out and move. Actually, I do have another, you see, remember like Iron Man, like it's opening, the whole chest is opening, and this volume is now looking at it. I actually could go into this random fill again and change the scale. I could change this to a very, very tiny one, and we have now a system of these little particles that we could smooth it out as well. I could change the different noise. Let's change this to the box or dance. Like, let's go to get some boxes out of it. And we can see here how all our geometry is here as well. I could go inside of my builders, and this is something that you could also do in a parametric way. I could change that to be a very, very tiny voxel size, and we will automatically see how we now have a very, very dense thing where we see, let's go to the beginning, so we see this mesh back. We can see how this mesh that we created is now affecting in the same way. Again, this random fill now is creating cells. Let's go back to Voronoi or Perlin or any of the noise that you want to try. And now we have our animated noise that is still animated, affecting a completely different geometry. So again, like I think this is a very, very powerful thing for designers, for whoever is doing visual effects to create these different passes and whatnot. And I will really like it, and especially to create these very, very organic animations and organic things with the fills and the volumes and measures. And again, for this, I only use the random fill, but make sure that you explore this because the possibilities are infinite almost. Like inside of fills, you will have lots of different effectors that you can tap into formulas, into sound, into all sorts of things. And we can, and you can use this for also other, with other different types of volumes. But remember that we can even like be inverting some of those. We could use any of those tools here, any of those modifiers, to also change things into that visualization. So again, this is one of our favorite new features. I've been here now for 40 minutes, so I'm going to just quickly go through another very, very interesting thing. I'm going to just spend 5 minutes for that one. And this is how important is that we can now import Alembic files. We did this beautiful trailer with these little fellas. These are called the Blancos. Blancos is a new video game coming up soon. And we only had just like these little guys animated. Our team of animators were actually giving us, the Cinema 4D team at Territory Studio, all the artists that are working with it, wanted to render with Cinema 4D and do all of that. So we created all of these worlds with Cinema 4D, and what we wanted to do is to import all of these great animations. And we created this trailer. Now, this trailer is something that you will see, oh, there's a lot of animation here, especially when you see all of them dancing. But all of those animations were imported as Alembic. We didn't need any rig system. But you can see the amount of people dancing here, and all of these guys. Oh yeah, you will see that, wow, you had to animate lots of guys in here, lots of Blancos. Actually not, we animate only 10, but thanks to Alembic we could start dropping them, change their textures, make them look like a completely different character, and then scroll through it. And I want to show you how quick this works. In less than 2 minutes. I'm just gonna dive in, show it to you. You know the amount of guys here dancing. Let's finish the trailer. And we also created this in 4 weeks, which was crazy, right? Like, we don't have enough time to be animating lots of stuff, so let's reuse lots of this stuff. So, there's a lot of information here, but look at how quick I can scroll through and see this animation here, right? It's insane. It's here. And actually, the good thing about it is I could merge another animation. Let's just merge a different one. Let me go back to my Mario Mances Alembic. And let's say that I want to add a completely different Blanco. I see here some of those. Let's just add this guy, maybe. Let's just add this guy. I merge it. It's here. I can put it with Alt-J into a null. This is our guy. Let's find him. Let's press H. We'll see now the whole thing. And let's find this guy. Let's see where this guy is at. Oh, here he is. Oh, okay. I can have this guy now. It's the same guy here, but maybe I don't want him to be doing any of that. I could go to select my Alembics. I can offset all these animation, right? This guy is here. He's not doing that anymore. I can just drop him here in the background. And now, as simple as that, I have my master animation, and this animation is here. I can start importing all of these guys that we animated, one guy dancing, offsetting this time here, because the animation in these 3 seconds of that shot is not exactly for all of them. It's just they look like they are all different. This is extremely powerful for when you don't have much time and you need to be reusing some of these animations, importing great animations from all the softwares if you want, and then using them in that way. So again, I think with that, I have to say thanks everyone for being here. First of all, thanks for Maxim for having me here. For everyone who made this possible, feel free to get in touch. I will be around over in the back with these guys. Ask any questions you want, and don't be afraid to reach out in our social media and ask us questions. We're always on it and replying to everyone. So thank you very much.